Drones and then also missiles all have GPS. Anything that's been built for the military in the last 30, 40, 50 years does its navigation with GPS. I want to make a drone that flies without a GPS. Should use Google Maps to like fingerprint where you are. We built that, put a picture up on Twitter, and then slept for like 18 hours. I like woke up, opened my phone, and tons of people from Ukraine, tons of people like associated with the White House. Very quickly became clear we needed to do this.
This is Ian Laffey, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Theseus. And Theseus is basically building a little box that sits on the underside of a drone that makes it so drones can fly into like GPS denied environments and basically fly without GPS. Do you want to just talk about what that is and why it matters?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you want drones to do things autonomously. You want them to do things without needing an operator to control them the whole time. And in order to do that, they need to know where they are. Because if I'm trying to go from A to B and I don't know where I am at A and I don't know where I am at, A+1, then I can't get to B.
I know that you like went through a hackathon, and basically let's start off there. How did that hackathon come together? What did you build and like what came out of it?
Yeah, for sure. So Sasha, my co-founder, he was doing a PhD at Yale, and one of the guys that put the hackathon on was also like, they were buddies from school. And we did our undergrad together. Like we're very good friends. And so I think I'd seen it on Twitter, but I wasn't like planning on making the trip down to LA. And so he messaged me and he's like, "Oh dude, do you want to go to this?" Yes, definitely. Neither of us knew anything about hardware really. We both have like software backgrounds. He's got like an AI background. And so we're like, we got to find somebody there that like knows their shit with hardware. And so we went down there and we met Carl. He just knew a ton of stuff about drones. And he's like, yeah, I want to make a drone that flies without a GPS. Should use Google Maps and should like fingerprint where you are. I'm like, dude, that's like fucking sick idea. And so we built that. Like, honestly, the early version of it, the prototype was like super, like it just wouldn't work in any sort of real environment. Like it was like very much like, okay, you're in an urban environment, like you're matching features to satellite maps that are up to date. Like it's basically playing on easy mode. But we made that. I've done a lot of hackathons, and yeah, they always kind of like results. I don't do them anymore because anytime I do a hackathon, like I get a new job. So yeah.
You like the one that you have, so it's all good now.
Exactly. So so we did that. Like basically we did sleep for a couple hours actually in the middle, and then like presented the thing. We didn't win the hackathon or anything. Like we talked to people and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I like put a picture up on Twitter and then slept for like 18 hours. And I literally woke up, like when I went to sleep, the tweet had like maybe like 6 likes. And I'm like in an Uber, like to my Airbnb.
It's over. It didn't work.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, no, dude, I need to pass out. No, at the time I'm like, dude, like 6 likes, banger. Like this is like sick. And so, I just like, go to sleep, and I like woke up. The first thing I see is like a message from one of my friends from college. He's like, dude, like saw that tweet of yours, pretty cool. I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. Like this guy hasn't texted me in a while. Like, you're cool. And then I like opened my phone and I saw that and I was like, oh shit. That was my first reaction, like shit. And then pretty quickly I was like, yeah, we really got to do this. Like a lot of like very serious people are messaging us and like want this and like want it yesterday.
I think I heard you say something along the lines of someone from Ukraine actually messaged you just after that video.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. So we had like tons of people from Ukraine, tons of people like SOCOM people, tons of people like associated with different government agencies like the White House and stuff. So, I mean, not like anybody in the White House, but like, oh, hey, I've been talking to the White House, you need to do this. So, it very quickly became clear that we needed to do this.
One thing I really liked was kind of the iteration philosophy where you're just thinking about going super, super hard and really, really fast. And you're not also trying to like vertically integrate everything. You're trying to find parts off the shelf and then put them together to make them work. How did that, coming out of the hackathon, you realize the thing doesn't really work? How'd you go through that?
Yeah. Break that into a couple of parts. The reason that we knew that it didn't work is we were lucky enough to talk to people in Ukraine during the hackathon. And they'd been dealing with this problem for a while because their GPSs are all getting jammed. And like, just to dive into that for a second, because it's like such a everybody's heard the term at this point. It's kind of like buzzy, but it's like, you know, when you're over there and you're driving around, like you've got Google Maps, it's like, oh, I'm going to McDonald's. And then all of a sudden your phone says like you're in Iceland. And you're like, oh shit, dude, like where are we going? It's like, it's literally like in the car driving around, like anywhere, especially as you get farther east, like you're just going to get your GPS knocked out like all day, every day. So we talked to these guys who had been experiencing this for a while. Just to be really clear too, the reason they do this is like drones and then also missiles like all have GPS. So like anything that's been built for the military in the last 30, 40, 50 years, like going back to Tomahawk missile, TERCOM, does its like a large part of its navigation with GPS, and especially the terminal phase of navigation with GPS. So that's like the difference between I'm going to blow up like, you know, this block and hit somewhere in the block with a payload, and like I'm going to blow up like this building, I'm going to come through like the front door and like you're going to die. So that's why they have to jam it. And so it's like super easy to jam. Ukrainians figured it out. Like, I mean, nothing to figure out. You just like blast, it's known bands. You just blast a bunch of radio interference in there and no more positioning. So they had that figured out, and they took one look at what we were doing, and they're like, guys, like we've tried this isn't going to work. Like, you know, it's like you're flying over like fields. So like, how are you gonna match features over fields? Like things explode, they change like rapidly. There's snow, all these different things. So we definitely like pushed that a little bit just because we wanted to like actually put something up in the air and like have some proof of concept, etc. But like basically from day 2, I'm just like, fuck, like what are we gonna do? Like the way we're solving this isn't gonna work. And so I basically just read like every single paper that I could get my hands on. And we're lucky also, like we've been continuously lucky, but because we had like some press and exposure and people thought what we were doing is interesting, and also like, yeah, just kind of associated this problem with us, we got to talk to a lot of like researchers that were working on the problem. So like got to talk with people from like MIT, CMU, and like bit by bit you like piece it together. But like especially the first conversations, you're talking to these guys and it's like, you know, this guy's been doing this for like 5 years. Like I did this at like a hackathon, like, you know, like
There's a little bit of tribal knowledge that isn't really there on your part.
Yeah, 100%. And so we got through that pretty quickly, thankfully. But yeah, then we kind of landed, we did like our homework and landed on like an approach after, I would say, a month and a half. I mean, actually there's a funny story there, which I don't think I've actually talked about, which is that, so Sasha was doing a PhD. He is French, so he had to get his like O1 visa, get all that sorted out, and then drop out. And so he ended up moving to San Francisco on April 1st of last year. And he showed up like at my apartment, and we're like, okay, like let's go. And we're sitting there and I'm like, dude, like this isn't gonna work. Like there's nothing to go on. Like we gotta like go read papers. And so like that day that he was there, like we found the thing and we're like, oh, okay, like this is how we're gonna break it out. Like you're gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on that. Go. And like that has been the like high level approach that we've stuck with since then. But it didn't come together until I guess like 6 weeks after the hackathon.
Yeah. I think one of the early iterations was just strapping like an Android phone to what was that?
Yeah, dude. So that was the first approach we took, and there's a couple of funny things. Like, yeah, I didn't want to figure out how to run it on the phone or like do it on the edge. So it's like, okay, we're gonna host this on AWS where we've got these big GPUs, and we're just gonna send like an image from the Android phone to AWS. It had this like crazy latency, obviously. So it took like a second to come back. And we didn't like, when you're doing like, you know, GNC, guidance, navigation, control, you need to do a lot of, you get these inputs, they have different timings. You have to filter them. You are constantly filtering between your different sources, and you hear like buzzwords around like sensor fusion. Like there's a lot of math and like stuff that goes into this, which we have since learned and hired people that are really, really good at, and ourselves gotten good at. But to begin with, it was like, fuck it. Like we're gonna send this to AWS to take what it gets back. We'll just like send that over a serial connection into the drone for like 2 seconds at a time. And then when it updates, we'll send a new one. And so we put that, I don't know the statute of limitations for like flying drones over college campuses, but like I will just say this because I think it's funny. Is like we put that up like over Stanford. Is like they've got these like no drone signs. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go like away from the no drone sign. We're gonna go like a couple 100 feet away from the no drone sign.
That's legal.
Yeah,
Go away from the no drone
and
sign.
we just fucking put it up in the air. It was a Holybro X500, one of the ones there. It's like everybody's first drone. Actually, like our very first angel investor was, we hadn't like figured out, like I don't even know if we'd incorporated or we hadn't done all this stuff, so we couldn't take his money, but he's like, I will Amazon you like a drone, what do you need? So we had this drone that he bought us. We had the Android phone that I bought from Cricket Mobile on Mission Street, and we just like slapped it together, put it up in the air. It was so fucking shaky. It was so scary, but like that was like, it was pretty quick. And so that's what I was like happy about, is like, okay, we are like, you know, we are actually flying this, and like it didn't work, but like, okay, look, like we did that, and now let's go and make it better from there.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that people have kind of gotten wrong, or maybe the directions they've gone down with, you know, autonomous cars and such, is basically slapping a bunch of very expensive sensors onto, you know, a car, you know, $100,000 worth of sensors onto a car. And I think you guys are taking much more of the like Tesla approach, where you're saying like, okay, we use visual line of sight for, you know, humans, and we're just going to strap a bunch of cameras that you can buy anywhere, and then use basically make up for that with software. And I like one of the things that you said, where you basically said, we're going to take in bad, not necessarily amazing data, but we'll just make up for that on the software side. How do you kind of like come up with that?
To me, it's like significantly harder to get good data from the real world than it is to just make bad data better. I mean, that's what do I mean by that? Is like to solve these data problems, get higher quality sensors, get LiDAR, et cetera, like there's very real like engineering there. And it's kind of like a meme, like software engineering isn't real engineering, but like it is actually true. Like as a software engineer starting to touch like real engineering, you see very quickly that like with software, you're kind of in like la la land, where you can always like spin up some new thing. It's like you have some trade-off around like compute and cost, but like you're literally like in not the cloud like as it's used generally, but like you're in this abstract space where you can do whatever you want. Whereas like the second you have to do like real engineering, it's just like you have all these hard physical constraints. I think the other thing with like self-driving too is like self-driving is a much harder problem in almost every way than like than drones, because you have this like regulatory compliance, you have these safety concerns. Like if I always thought this was like a beautiful problem to attack, like and to start a startup in, because the drones fall out of the sky all the time. Like, you know, like
It's like the default state falling out.
Like an ISR drone, which is like designed to be used and reused again. Like the average ISR drone in Ukraine, like I'll fuzz the numbers here. I think they're like publicly known though. It's like say 25 to 30 flights like per drone. So it's just not like if your Waymo exploded or got shot out of the sky after like 25 flights or 25 like rides, like you'd probably have to think about it differently.
You see the Paladin cash burning in flames, and you're like, this might not be the right business model.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, and it's also, it's just like it is literally, it is war, man, and it's like the worst thing ever. But it's also like an extremely, I want to say like interesting engineering environment, because you don't have regulations, you don't have you don't have the FCC saying you can't do this, and you don't have, you know, the DOT telling you that you can't fly here. And you do have to like coordinate, like it's not really the Wild West, especially these days, like out there, but it is like a lot of the rules that we have around technology are pretty arbitrary. And I mean, I saw even like I saw somebody recently, I think it was Isaiah, talking about like regulatory hurdles. Like in the US, there's a lot of regulatory hurdles. Like the second you go to war, like all regulatory hurdles, you have these organizational, logistical, bureaucratic issues. But then like when you're actually out on the front, like there are not really.
It's like, did you get the job done or not?
Yeah, and it's almost like I think we've been learning like what those, because it's, there are really big bureaucracies at play, and you do have to learn those processes, but it's it's a very different motion when you have like a commanding officer that you're responsible to, and you have guys underneath you that you're in charge of, and you need to achieve a mission versus just like, oh, this doesn't seem safe, I'm some official and I'm going to kind of deem this unsafe. So I think it's just like a very different environment to develop in.
It's like the difference between like optimizing for like end users and their ability to execute their missions versus just some guy that's like stamping stuff.
Yeah. We've spent like pretty much all of our time, and I think that this is kind of not what most, I think it's what a lot of the new defense startups are doing. Like I heard in your interview with Olaf, he called this out. I know like Neros, they do this as well, where they do this even more than us, where they spend a ton of time like with end users, like really working with that. I think that comes very naturally to people that come from like a engineering tech startup background. But it is actually very new in the defense space, because it just, when you're procuring, and I think some of it does have to do with drones and the nature of drones. Like you have these small edge deployed systems that are used at like the squad level, they're used at the platoon level. And so you, like, if you have an F-35, like that's such a strategic asset that like the user of the F-35 is not the guy piloting it, right? It's the general, I don't even know at what level they control that, but probably like 2-3 star general that's saying like, you know, go do this, put this here, do this thing. Whereas like with drones, like everybody has a drone. It is like you have a team of 6 dudes and these are your drones, and you're in charge of using them. And so I think that is like a lot closer to what you're used to seeing from startups, where it's like, go work with the end user, and the end user is the person that is using the thing.
Do you have any other really good stories of kind of deciding to move much faster and just make something out of, you know, off the shelf parts?
Yeah, what can I say there? I mean, I think we just have always felt it's actually gotten a bit better the past 6 months, but the first like year we just really felt, I mean, again, there's a war, and like we're supporting people that are like really in almost every way like kind of the underdogs there. And so it just always felt like we needed to like, it wasn't even some conscious decision of like, oh, I want to move fast because, you know, things compound over time. And if I do this in 3 months instead of 6, then, you know, over the course of 5 years, I'll be so much farther ahead. Like it was not any sort of thought like that. It's just like, oh, like I have this guy on Signal that's messaging me that, you know, I told I would be done with this 2 weeks ago and I'm still not done with it. And that feels really fucking bad. And I've come to learn that that's like a super common thing. And it kind of like sucks to have been on the side. I think what makes it better for me is like getting through that, you know, actually get out there with the guys, and it does work. But like, I mean, this happens all the time with people in Ukraine is that they hear there's this hot shit Western technology that's going to come in here. And then it just takes longer and longer and longer. And so I think for us, it was just a lot of like, yeah, I don't know. I think what has really sunk into me about working on this is that it's not like there are no countries. There are countries. I believe in America. I believe in the West, but it's like people. You know, you're not working with a country. You don't work with America. You don't work with Ukraine. You work with like 6 dudes. You work with like one guy in like an office somewhere that like has a family, and like his like people are dying, and like their brothers are dying and shit. And so I just think like when you have to when you start interacting on that level, it's like much less yeah, man, it's just like, yeah, my friend is in a bad spot, and like I need to bring,
there's a real fire underneath you for like making the thing work in like not only the time frame that you like said, but maybe like a few days earlier. And like not having that happen really sucks.
Yeah, I think it's just been that more than anything. And to me, then it's like I always look at like what is you said this when we were talking earlier, but yeah, like what is the critical path to get to something? Like what is the what are the things to de-risk, and then what is the way to do that as quickly as possible? And also like, is what we're doing actually working? Because I think so much of like I think you were alluding to this as well, is like so much of time is spent doing things that like if you reflect on it, you'd realize it wasn't going to work. And so you need to constantly like meta prompt yourself of like, is the thing I'm doing the right thing? Is it going to work? Have I, okay, I've been working on this for 3 days. It feels really fucking good to be writing code and like see this boulder being pushed, but like, is this actually the boulder that I care about? And like, when
you were definitely pushing the boulder, is it gonna ever go downhill? And like, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so I think we, just constantly like running that prompt and I think a lot of times like we did well at that and sometimes we didn't do well at that. And I think like that is, that's kind of the key thing, is just if you're working on the right thing, then you're gonna iterate much faster.
You tried, iterated, whatever. You put the thing up in the air over at Stanford campus. Coming out of that, how did you kind of think through the critical path in your mind?
Yeah. So the first time that we went out on base with SOCOM was, I think, July of last year. It was either June or July of last year. And we were able to do that because we were able to put our sensor onto the wing of a plane and record a data set and then localize over the data set. And then I showed that to the guys and it's like, oh, this was an experimental aircraft, by the way. So that's legal. And it actually was. No, like I'm not just saying that, like it was an experimental aircraft. But yeah, so we did that and sent it to these guys. And then, yeah, once you have the people that you can check it against, then it's just like, okay, what do they need next? And so we were able, it's like, okay, we're gonna go out there and we need to fly this autonomously. And so this needs to go on the bottom of the drone that they have. It needs to fly autonomously. And then, yeah, I mean, like, I honestly, okay, here's to really answer your question. How do you think through the critical path? I don't think through it at all. I do not. It is, I just have, I think, a pretty good gut sense of what good looks like. And I try to calibrate how I'm feeling to results and then reflect on things that I've done in the past and then update my feelings based on that. And so I really just like think about it. It's like, oh, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Etc. And like
Rick Rubin style, where it's like, I know what I like and I know what I don't like.
Oh my God. So I was, yes. I mean, we literally, so much of the shit that we did, like we just had to learn ourselves. And like a lot of it, one of the biggest accelerant that we've had, I mean, obviously I think so for any company, it's just been like hiring people, bringing people on that are really good at stuff and can help you with those things. But to begin with, like, yeah, I mean, just figuring out like a lot of stuff from first principles and with not enough like background research, just like literally just like
you're just trying it.
Yeah. I give an example on this. I think it's like maybe a little too nerdy, but yeah, like in robotics, you have coordinate transformations. So like you need to go from like you're oriented like one way to like another way. And so there's like, and I know linear algebra pretty well, but like you multiply a matrix there and it does the rotation. And this is like, you can study these coordinate transformations. Like they're not hard. Like it literally takes like a day to learn. But like this wasn't something that like either myself or Sasha had a background in. And so we literally I'm just like, dude, like I think we need to multiply by like, I think it needs to be like negative X or like swap the X and the Y. And you're just like, and you look back at like that first time, it's like, dude, holy shit. Like there's just, we didn't have to do any of this, but I think that helps a lot to kind of think things through that way, because some things are really silly. Everything is really simple when you know how to do it. And most things somebody knows how to do and you can just like read a book and do it. But then some things are like actually hard and nobody's done them before. And so I think like that's been a funny thing, is looking back and I was like, oh, that thing that was simple but took a week was actually novel. And that thing that was simple and took a week was actually kind of silly. I think a lot of that.
Yeah, I know you mentioned on Christian's podcast, I think you said something along the lines of you really try to like go find the source of truth, or like someone is a few steps ahead. Like I think Mr. Beast even talks about this, where he's basically like, go find not the consultant, like not a McKinsey consultant, but someone that just really knows,
Mhm.
you know, if you want to go make the biggest pizza in the world, find the person that has made the biggest
Mhm.
pizza and then figure out like, you know, how to, you know, do that. And so how have you kind of used like finding those people that how are like a few steps ahead of you,
Mhm.
how already done it to your advantage?
Yeah, yeah, I like talking to smart people, and I like asking questions, and um I think most especially like successful and people that have done things are very happy to talk about it and share it if you can ask them the right questions, or get them going about the thing that you're interested in. And so yeah, I think we just always run this process, or I specifically always run this process of, yeah, we're, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I don't even consciously think about it that much, but it's like, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing X. Who do I know that's the best at X? And it's, there's, I have a large like contact list in my phone, and there's people that I go to for like a lot of things and like general things. And I have a lot of friends that are founders, and if they're, Series A, Series B founders, and I'm like, it's just some like general company startup stuff. It's like, okay, I want to talk to this person about this and get advice. Or yeah, like in industry and with technical problems, like good people know good people. And so I'm just, I will text so and so, Johnny or whoever, and say, hey, who do you know that's good at this? Or like, these are the things I'm thinking. And I think the last thing I'd say there is, I really try not to have an ego about anything. And I really try to like ask the stupidest questions that I think of. And it's like, sometimes, very occasionally, you meet people where you're like, they're really scary, and it's like you're like, fuck, I don't want to like ask this, and you kind of miss those opportunities. But like almost always, I'm just trying to like ask.
Is there aspects to it where you're basically trying, you're not worried about the ego side and you're like, okay, I may look like an idiot, but it's possible that it's actually the stupidest questions actually probably are pretty smart in
Yep,
most cases if
yep.
you're thoughtful about it.
Almost always the stupid questions are the good questions, and almost always the ones just when you feel nervous or you're scared or you're out there like, and you're just feel kind of like an idiot, then you're getting somewhere. And also I think the thing that helps is just like when you have a history of past execution and you have actually done something, then you don't need to feel bad asking people questions. And that's something that just like really does compound over time. It's like
building a proof of work so that when you go ask that thing, the person takes it seriously.
well, and it's like, dude, I mean, I kind of stuttered there because I don't actually know what I should say, but it's like, yeah, like this shit is flying in Ukraine. Like it does work. Like I know that it works, and I know that I've done the thing, and I can tell you all about it. And so, I may have some question about some new thing that I want to do, or something else, but it's like, I think that gives a lot of confidence in terms of, yeah, I'm going to sound like an idiot. I'm going to talk to you about this thing that I don't know anything about. But honestly, like, and it is kind of ironic to say this on a podcast where I'm just talking about things that I do know, but like, I would say 90+% of the time, it's like, why am I saying something that I already know? Like you need to spend, yeah, maybe 10-15% of your time like summarizing to other people. And like, this has been something that I've been learning as we've like been growing a team, is like, these guys do need context. I need to do a good job of like providing them context, and giving them something that they can rally behind and understand. But other than that, it's like, I don't know. I think everybody knows that person that like comes to mind where it's like, they're just telling you a bunch of shit that they know. And it's like, what, like, if you're not like, what's the point of that? Like, you should, I try to enter most conversations. Again, this is ironic on a podcast, but like, I generally, where I'm talking about my own stuff, but it's like, I generally enter most conversations like, what can I learn from this person? And whoever's doing, I can think of, like, I got a buddy, Peter, very, very smart guy. And like, if you let him, like, you'll talk to him for 30 minutes and he won't say anything about what he's doing. He'll just ask you questions, and he'll like, cause he's just like, he's so smart, and he's just like training his,
like super curious.
And just like, if you're the one asking questions, like updating your mental models, like you are just like gaining a lot from that conversation. And so, I could sit there and just say the same 5 things that I've said before, but it's like, what, yeah, like, maybe you get somebody thinks marginally. I don't know. Maybe it's a way to get people to, if you care what people are thinking about you or something, but I don't think it's like the best way to build like your own like model of understanding of the world. I think you just need to try to learn a lot more than you share, and then also try to share.
When you're like going through the first few iterations of your making now, what did that look like?
It looked like collecting a lot of data, and then, well, it looked like reading a lot of papers, collecting a lot of data, training some models on that data, iterating on those data sets, then from there testing in the loop, and then iterating on the real world results. Because like our product does not exist in a vacuum. It's like an input into like a larger system. It's very important that we understand the larger system very, very well, and then test the entire system. And so then it moved from this kind of like Eugene Stoner in the garage type thing to like you're actually taking it out and just testing. And the first hire that we made was like literally somebody to run like the testing arm of the company. And that's like been the most like that was to that point the most impactful thing that we'd done, is like get somebody to come on and help us test this.
How'd you find that person?
He messaged me on Twitter. Yeah, we put up job postings, and Grayson reached out, and she's like, yeah, man, like I really like what you guys are doing. Like I just want to work really hard. Like I don't know if I have the most experience in this, but like I just really care about what you're doing, and I'm gonna work my ass off. And that he did, and now he's built a bunch of drones, taught a bunch of people to build the drones. Now he doesn't even build the drones, like runs all of that, has been to Ukraine, like has done the integrations over there. Like, yeah, it's, but yeah, just wax on, wax off on the testing thing. And then also like up until like May, things would still not, there were things that worked and things that didn't work. And so I think there's an impulse to do more of the things that work. And it's like, no, we just need to do the thing that didn't work over and over again until it does work. And so, instead of, I think that was the big thing, is just testing and like, okay, edge case, boom, fix it. Okay, this thing, okay, fix it.
I know that you have gone to Ukraine multiple times. I think you just came back on Friday. And so how have you tried to kind of build that trust with those people on the other side? Up to date.
Yeah, you gotta over communicate, and you gotta under promise, and you gotta over deliver. And I think that was like something we got hip on pretty quick, is just like, you don't need to promise anybody the world. Like you just need to go and deliver on the things that you said you were going to deliver on. And so, like, sure, first month and a half, we were naive there. But then from there is like, okay, like this is exactly the state of the system. Like, okay, that is working. Like we're going to come out at this time. These are the things that are ready. Please have this ready. Like we're going to do this. And just being like, you just really need to like own the process, and you can get away with it. Like, I think it's the difference between like an engineer and like a business owner too. It's like, I can show up to your spot and just let you tell me what to do. And like, we did a lot of that when we first started, but then it's like, okay, actually I've done this a dozen times before with a dozen companies that look just like yours, or with a dozen units that look just like yours. And I know what your drone looks like. I can guess every single part in it, and I can just build that. Like I probably have a drone here that looks just like your drone. I will bring it to you, and we will work through this whole process together. And I will just like explain to you how long that takes and like what the risks are. And I think a lot of it too is like, again, just complicated stuff and like non-trivial environments, and you can get into sketchy situations. And so I think you always need to be and there are often other adults in the room, but you always need to be the adult in the room saying like, oh, I know that you may think that this is like how this works or that this is a good idea, but like actually we need to really do that. And to the point about like showing up face to face is like, I think that is I think this because I've heard it enough times that I just have to believe that it's true, is that like as founders of the company, people do like really rate when you come out and spend time with him. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm not sending like one of the guys out and then I'm like back here doing this and that. And at some point you have to do that because you're working with so many people that like I can't be in 4 places at once. But especially to begin with, just like A, showing that you do care, B, yeah, just I think being really earnest. Like I think people have very good bullshit detectors, and some people are very vocal about them, and some people, you know, are maybe trusting, but it's just like, yeah, just don't bullshit people and show up and tell them what you're going to do and then do it. And then when you build, it's also a very, very small world. So like we're moving into like, you know, larger OEMs and big army, but like to start, we were really focused on SOCOM, which is like a very small group of dudes. Like, first of all, like special forces, like across the world, like a lot of them know each other because as part of special forces, they train each other. So like you'll have Green Berets or whoever going over to the UK or Ukraine before the war or Poland or any of these places or South America or Africa and training soft people over there. And so it's just a very small world. And so if you do something with one person, like somebody else going to hear about it, like obviously, and you're only like max 2 hops away from somebody, like you're in all the same group chats. Like I receive, there's pictures that I'm not allowed to like send people because it's like, oh, this is sensitive, I'm not going to send this. And then I get that from, you know, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize like you guys knew each other. Okay, cool. Like, let's go. And so I think just showing up and communicating well and like, yeah, understanding that it is like a small world and like reputation does matter. And like, we have made mistakes. I'm sure we will make mistakes in the future. Like we have crashed drones. We have done things like less good than we should, but also we've done a lot of good things and we've tried to like learn from the mistakes that we've had and also just be very communicative with folks. And so I think honestly, that's one of the things that I've tried to like really hammer is just like, yeah, under promise, over deliver, and over communicate. Just tell people why you're doing shit too. Like everybody's very aligned, you know.
There's an interesting story of, I forgot which oil company this was, but there was this guy that ran an oil company where every single time someone gave like here's what we want to do, or, you know, here's what I want you to do, you had to give the why behind the action. And you just basically could not, if you gave no why behind the action, you'd just be fired immediately. Because like people have to understand why they're doing a thing, you know? Do you, on the like earnestness side, do you have any interesting stories from just being very earnest, showing up?
I'm trying to think what I can say, and then also, yeah, because it's always funny, like what there's stuff that you can't talk to anybody about. Then there's stuff that you can talk to your friends about. There's stuff that you can talk about, and then there's stuff that you can talk about on the internet. So I'm trying to think about like what
what is the internet okay with?
Yeah. As far as earnestness, no, like honestly, top of mind, I think a lot of it is when you get into more sensitive situations and you just I don't think anything comes off top. I think it's also like one of those things that's just get meta here for 2 seconds. Like you're not actually you're not doing anything to be earnest. You're just not doing something, which is like bullshitting or like blowing something out of proportion. Like it's just yeah. I think just trying to understand the truth, and then also, and this applies to like asking questions, this applies to working with customers, I think it applies to everything in life, is like phrasing is everything. So like, this is how I am thinking about this. How are you thinking about this? Does this make sense to you? Or like, because of X, Y, Z, like you said about the why, like because of these things, I think this, like check my assumptions. okay, assumptions make sense. Let's go. Yeah. So nothing like, I wouldn't say any like funny concrete examples like come up, but it is just, well, I mean, here's what I can say is like, yeah, you're selling to, we're selling to the DoD. We're talking to people there and just being like really honest of like, hey, here's the results. And like, I'm showing you these graphs and I'm showing you these flights from Ukraine. This is really great. This is how many we've done. This is exactly how many kilometers we've done. Like, we are not like, even look at Neros. Like, we're not Neros. Okay. We haven't shipped out like 2,000 drones a month yet. We have done these things, and this is the list of things that we've actually really executed on, and like this is how it's increasing month over month. And I think people appreciate that a lot more than like when you make it out like you're, you know, I always joke like, yeah, like Johnny Ukraine, and then it's like, oh, how much have you actually flown there? And so it's like, if you're talking about these things, just make sure that you're actually doing the things, basically.
Yeah, I think Zipline had flown something on the order of like 50 million miles before the US even allowed them to, like, before they made their first flight in the US. Some crazy number like that.
Yep.
It's interesting on people who really want to move fast. They always kind of think they're moving slow, just inside. And I think that's kind of what pushes them to move faster. For you yourself, what have been the biggest moments or the biggest things that you do to kind of try to move things, make timelines shrink? You know, move things forward that maybe shouldn't have happened in that time frame, but you're just trying to push on that gas.
Yeah. Well, I just ask myself, what is fucking me the most? And then I try to get rid of that thing. And
do you have any examples of that?
Yes. And I'm going to give a bit of context before I dive into this. It's just like, we had a somewhat working product before May of this year. But what is really clear to anybody that is like in the space, like a somewhat working navigation product is not a working navigation product. Like, you need to know where you are all the time. You need to not crash the drone ever, right? Like, that's if you need, you know, like AWS, like 7 nines of reliability, whatever, 9 nines of reliability. Like, you need to view what you're doing like that. You cannot be 80, 90%. Oh, it worked all these times. It didn't work. So when I say like, oh, it didn't work until May of this year, it's not like, oh, we'd never flown it. Oh, we hadn't flown it in this place. We hadn't done this, that. It's like, it was not like, you literally take this thing, you stick it on the bottom of your drone, and it just goes and flies. And like, if it's not working, like, something is misconfigured, you tweak that and it just works. So like,
until like May this year, are you saying basically you didn't have enough field tests where you were comfortable kind of saying like, no, we know this works?
I think it's just more like, we didn't have that reliability to the point, like again, it's like, if it works on 9 flights out of 10, like, that sucks. It needs to work on 10 flights out of 10. It needs to work on 998 flights out of 1,000. And you need to be like pushing towards that. And if you're going out and like, if we're doing tests here and we're crashing, like, we had a crash recently, and it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like, why? And it's not due to the system. It's due to like, oh, okay, we didn't prep properly with the battery. But like, that's not good. We definitely don't want to have like an issue with our system. Like, it should just not be happening here, because you're going to take it into a much more complicated environment. Not just like, oh, there's jammers. Like, jammers don't affect this. It's a camera. But it is like, you are taking fire. There's drones whizzing over your head. You're pulling this out. You haven't slept in 3 days, and it needs to just work, right? Like, there can't be any like fiddly bullshit there. Like, it just needs to be like a fucking, like a rifle. Like, it just needs to work. But so to get to that point, yeah, like May of this year, like, I was just looking at the product and where it stood and all these different efforts that we were pushing, but it's like, product just needs to be better. It just needs like, there's this big component in it, this big subcomponent that's taken us a long time, and we need to finish this and we need to iterate on that. And so, yeah, we just went to Florida for a month. I told everybody, I don't even know how much notice I gave. Probably not as much as I should have. It was like, I don't think it was a week. It was like, guys, like, we are all going to go to Florida. Like, we got a buddy who's got a ranch down there. He's got a drone company. We're going to set up there and we're going to fly every day. And we went to the shack that didn't have air conditioning. It was 100 degrees and we had Starlink and we just sat in there. And it was like, you know, a couple people would like work out of an Airbnb some days, but it's like, I really want everybody sitting here in this shack, writing code in this shack, because then the second you finish something, you don't have to drive an hour. Like, we're in downtown San Francisco, and like, honestly, that it kind of sucks, right? Because
you can't go do stuff.
Yeah, you can't go fly. Like, it's like, that's what I realized. Like, it's testing. We have testing days, and I don't want testing days. I just want to like test. So if I have to sit there for 2 days and like work nonstop, that's great. But then also, like, I can fly whenever. And so that was like the biggest thing, is like
getting super tight iteration loops.
Exactly. And whenever we've been able to move quickly, it has been just like, what is the thing that's fucking me most? What is the longest part of the iteration loop? And like, how do I cut that down? And frequently it is like one thing, you know, that's like 10 times slower. It's like, we got to drive out, we got to set up all this shit. And so, yeah, that I think was like the most clear cut example. And like, first, honestly too, like, I talked to Sasha about this. I don't even think I said anything to the team, but like, I was pretty worried. Like, we'd, you know, like a lot of things have been changing. Like, we'd had like this big opportunity and like didn't go great. And I'm like, we really need shit to work. Like, this is like, it's been long enough. Like, we need shit to work. And you get everybody out there and you're staying in this Airbnb or in rural Florida. Like, it's not San Francisco. It's not nice. You know, it's not, you know, beautiful.
A awesome shack is a nice term for it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the place is great. Thank you, Roger, for letting us out there. The drone zone itself was great, but like the Airbnb we're staying in had like fucking bugs and stuff. Like, I'm from Missouri. I don't mind bugs, but guys are like, oh dude, there's bugs everywhere. I'm like, dude, it's Florida. But you know, I was like, oh fuck, like this needs to work. Like, we're here for a month. Like, and I was honestly pretty worried. And then like a week goes by, you get everything set up. First week is just like, okay, we're able to fly more. Like, this is kind of cool. What's happening? Second week, you start like ironing out these issues that we just had kept coming to, and it's just much quicker. And then by the third week, it's just like, oh, okay, like, yeah, we're just flying through this, and like, we can fix all this shit, and it just works great. And so, I think that was like really, one of, anytime we've been able to do something like that, it's been huge.
After Socom, who was like the next customer, and how did you kind of build that relationship?
Yeah, we've got so many NDAs that it's like super unexciting to talk about. But one of the big focuses for us has just been like people that make drones. So you can sell to the end user who is using the drone, or you can sell to the army. But really, the way to get on those contracts is to go to somebody that's going after a big contract, and pretty much always they come to us and they're like, hey, we need this capability, and then we work with them. And so that has been that, and then some other stuff over in Ukraine, and again, it's like, you can't, like, I could talk about this offline, but like, you know, for the world, it's like, yeah, like, people want it and they buy more, and then they buy even more, and we get to work through like the fun of integrating that and doing more. But yeah, that's kind of a boring answer, but like, yeah, NDAs and like, yeah, I already spew enough stuff on the internet. That's probably not one to talk about too much.
Is there any other times where you were really just like waking up in the morning thinking to yourself, man, something is fucking me, something is not working?
Oh yeah, all the time. And a lot of my quotes are profane and use the word fuck, but like, I say these things to myself all the time, but it's like, yeah, the thing that's fucking you the most is the thing that you don't even know is fucking you. So like, that, if you're honestly, if you're waking up like sweating and like have terror, and like, that is a blessing, because
the
like,
unknown unknowns.
It's a startup, man. Like, if you know everything, like, why is this not, you know, a multi-billion-dollar company yet? Like, you know, what's going on? Clearly you need to figure stuff out. And so honestly, that's the loop that I try to run, is like, if I'm sitting there and I don't have that thing, like that's actually the scariest moment, because then you need to know what the next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps are. But yeah, it's kind of just like how I view the world. And I think like what I've been trying to shift as well is like, it's really great and awesome, like engineering wise, to like have that as like a milestone. But then you reach a point where, and with us, just because the technology is more difficult to develop than some, less difficult to develop than others, it took us a while where the technology was like the key risk. But you reach a point where the technology has been de-risked sufficiently to, you have to zoom out and say, okay, like I trust the product team, I trust the engineering team to execute on this, and here are the goals, and we're going to do this and map this out. And I know that will happen, and that we're capable of doing that. We have the people to do it. And you need to start looking at like basically engineering the company around this thing that you've built. And I think really good people kind of map that out as they're going. For us and me, I really wanted to just wanted to have the thing fucking work before like going and moving on and spending a bunch of time in these rooms with people. But yeah, now I think it's a lot more of like, okay, you have this box, it does a thing. Like, where do you go from there? Like, how is this, $100 million? How is this $1 billion? Like, how do I sell this as a 7-figure contract, like this month? Like what are the things that we can do there? Because yeah, it's like, if a shark's not swimming, it's dying. If a company's not growing, it's dying. So it's really not easy to sell things to the government. It's like a highly technical process. And so like we have a lot of really awesome stuff in the works. But a lot of that is like, again, yeah, de-risking. Like it is just, it's not, I mean, it's certainly not like a Stripe, self-serve checkout thing.
It's not exactly like 3 clicks.
Yeah, I mean, and we have a Stripe link. Like you can buy this on a Stripe link. Like email me and I'll sell it to you on a Stripe link. That works. But like to go from that Stripe link, like here's 2 of these, to like, okay, like, we want to sell thousands of these, tens of thousands of these, hundreds of thousands of these, and millions of these. How do we engineer that? Because you're not going to Stripe link more than 50, right? Like it's just not, that's not.
No one's buying like 100,000 over Stripe.
Yeah, no, and yeah. So that's been a lot of my thought process recently.
Has there been any moments where, like, only in hindsight did you realize that you were completely like fucking up, or there was something that you should have been, waking up in the middle of the night over, and you just didn't realize it was an issue at the time?
I think not all of them are things that like are like can necessarily be talked about, but yeah. I mean, it's a great question. If I can't answer it, it means it's like a really good question, right? Because like you can't and I think this is different in other businesses, and I'm sure it'll be different like when you grow to, like, I can say the thing about Stanford now, because that happened long enough where it's like, okay, fuck, like if they really come, yes,
the police are going to come knocking. It's like, not really.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry guys. Like we haven't done that in a long time, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I remember like being a kid and like, when I was like 8, 9 years old, like going down on my like buddy's older brother's Xbox and like playing MW2, and it's like, oh, M-rated game, can't do that. 5 years later, it's like, oh yeah, mom, like when I was 8 years old, I was doing this. So I think it's like right amount of time to start sharing like the real fuck ups. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Outside of the like Florida experience, what other, have you ever done any other sprints where you're really, really focused on just doing field tests and getting those iteration loops?
Yeah. We went out, both Sasha and myself, which was like, so this was in July. The team, like, in order to get the engineering for this sensor, which has like this pick rail and it's all in one, and to get a large number of those out to a customer, like the whole team here was like super focused on that. So it's like, okay, like we got the requirements on this, like you guys, like, I trust you, like, go, 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 go. So they're like super focused on that. And Sasha and I are just like, man, like, we got to get back to Ukraine. Like, we got to go over there. We got to bring like drones with us and like come and just and do that. And so we went out. Like a bit like near Dnipro. And we were there working with there's tons of different groups out there, but working with one of them out there. And yeah, just like working through that whole process of understanding like what they needed and what they were trying to do and use it for, and then demonstrating the capability. I mean, even just um, getting drones. Like it's funny because it's like it's very complicated. A drone is like a very complicated system. The box we make is very complicated algorithmically. It's very complicated hardware. It's very complicated in general. And then also, literally, if you wanted to ship toothpaste from here to the front line, like that would take 2 weeks and be really hard. So it's like everything is hard, which is awesome and fun. But like just getting it out there, getting the birds out there where they needed to be was like a huge pain in the ass. And yeah, and so and then we just spent a bunch of time like with those guys, just yeah, just showing them everything. And like also in the US, like we've been able to get around this by going on to like army bases, but other than that, like you can't fly. Like there's a bunch of rules about like heights and distances that you can fly at, and so we are mindful of that. And so it's like, okay, like we're gonna send this thing 30 kilometers away at like 700 meters in the sky, and like, oh, okay, that works great. But like as you start to like push out, like there were a couple times where out there was like, oh shit, like we broke something. Like these guys, they still like have faith in us, but like we need to turn this, and thankfully we were able to, but like we need to turn this around like tonight. Like something wasn't working today, like we need to show up tomorrow with an answer. And so those are like, I pulled a lot of all-nighters like at this company, but like those were kind of like the last batch of all-nighters where it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, this thing broke, like we're staying up all night, we're fixing it, we're showing up tomorrow and like explaining it to them. And so that was July. What we've been doing more of now is like, as much as I love to be in the field, and like, I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like hand that, because we as a company, we need to do that. But like, I actually know pretty well how to do that. And also like how to teach that. And so that's something that like Sasha and I are both looking at, like handing off to people more and more. It's like, this is basically how you do forward deployed engineering. And like, this is how you go and like spend time with people. And like, just having faith, I think too, like we have a really good team that really gives a shit, and they've been here long enough and understand what's going on well enough that like, I can trust them to go and like to the spot and do the thing. And so I think like I'm spending a little bit, like I'm spending a lot less of my time now on that and more on what I've learned is that you do need to go there and you need to really like push it, but then also every because again, we sell, like the product that we sell right now is like a component of a larger system, and it requires engineering on behalf of the customer or the user. And so you inevitably reach a point where like you're handing it off to them, and then you need to be there and be really responsive when they come back. But it's like it's async. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at now, is like, how do we run as many threads as possible with as many different people as possible, and then respond to those very quickly. And then in those moments where it really matters to show up and like fix the thing, or it's a lot less of fixing the thing and a lot more of just like showing them like how to use it, like go and do that. But yeah, I think sadly, I will not be spending as much time like in the field anymore.
I think a lot about like reducing cognitive load and figuring out what is the thing in the company that I have to be doing for this. It's the interview. Like I have to be the guy sitting in this chair, doing this interview, and then everything else outside of that, I should just basically try to figure out the best guy that can be an absolute 10 at that one specific thing, whether it's editing or like setting up all the travel and all this stuff. For you, like I know you started out as CTO and now you're CEO. What has kind of that shift been like for figuring out what are the key things that you have to be doing versus finding the people to do the other stuff?
That's a really good question. This is my philosophy. I am not, I haven't built a huge successful company yet, and I haven't, so this is just how I think about it, and I think that that's like, there's other ways that you can think about it that would be good too. Is just that like if I haven't done something, then it's hard for me to know like how to even talk to somebody else about it. And so I think like you can totally, you can and should hire experts that are way, way, way better than you at the thing. But to me, it's important to like go and do it first and get like an understanding of what's going on. So like whatever, and in doing that, then talk to a bunch of experts, bring in people. Like we've got really great people that help us with federal. Like we've got like two of the best people in the world that help us with that. But a lot of that like legwork is still me. And so that's kind of like an inversion where it's like you've got, you got like the steering wheel and then you got the engine. And so a good way to learn how to steer is just to like be in the car and to be the engine and to do that. And so that's kind of how I look at it, is like when we're first starting with the technical stuff, like asking a bunch of questions to a bunch of people, trying to piece this together, and then just go do it. Like you got to be the one that writes the code. And then it's like, okay, like code's been written, that works pretty well. Let's find other people that, okay, testing, like okay, I've done testing, like bring in somebody else. Okay, got to go do integration, got to do like this kind of more hand-to-hand sales. Okay, know how to do that, bring people in. And so now it's like, okay, how do we go up market? How do we do larger volume sales? How do we do sales to the DoD? Okay, I got a lot of like really great investors, advisors, and like people working for us that know those things way better than me. And like I can ask a bunch of questions, but like I'm gonna be the one that's going on those calls and like asking those questions. And then once I've got that mapped out, then you bring somebody in to actually do it, and then you just kind of like point and say like, hey, here are the things. And I think also like I'm still learning and trying to improve at the steering aspect, and like what is the right amount to like, how do you, okay, I know how to be an engine here, but like how do I steer other people, or even like less steering, like how do I just show them like where we're trying to go, and then they can mostly steer, and you are just, it's a self-driving car.
I don't know where this line comes from, but I think I've seen like Ulu Chang, Missouri, and I think Daniel Strachman also say it, where they say like if you want to basically build 1,000 ships or whatever, you shouldn't tell people what to do or how to build a ship. You should just like make them yearn for the vast and endless sea, which I really like. And it's a little bit like that, where you're not necessarily telling everyone exactly what they should be doing. And we're just like, here's where we want to go. And here's why it matters.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. And I think to me, and honestly, maybe like I'll look back at this and realize like you can take more leaps of faith. But to me, it's like, if I want to build 1,000 ships, like I want to build one ship myself, just so that I know that a ship can be built. Like, and that I understand how to do it. And like, I want to do that as quickly as possible. And then it's like, okay, the sea is great. Like, let's go to sea. Yeah, no, I think that's a great quote.
When you come back, you've learned the initial stuff that you need to know how to do the thing. And then you hand that, or you find someone that can do it really well. How often are you kind of coming back and basically not necessarily checking in, but making sure that your model of how to do it, and is it being done well? How often are you updating that?
Yeah, so again, I think this is a place to like always be improving. One of the things like Sasha, my co-founder, actually said, which I think was great, is that like basically like evaluation is like 1/10 of the work of execution, if that even. And so I think yeah, I'll just say this is like something I've really had to learn, like being pretty young, and this is like this isn't the first startup that I've started, but it is the farthest that I've gone with a startup. And so really just to me, the biggest thing is like, oh, it is okay to provide feedback and to evaluate, and it's not even like it's not even a harsh thing, but it's like you just need to tell people like how they're doing and like where to improve. And so I think that took me a little bit to kind of internalize, is like, oh, okay, like I actually, I'm doing a disservice if I'm not providing feedback. And I just need to like come and look at this thing, whatever, like once every couple of days, once a week. And it's like, this is, you know, this, that. And it's less of like micromanaging and really just like not being afraid to say what you think, even if it is potentially like this, not this sucks. I don't really see things like nobody's doing anything that sucks, but like, hey, like, you know, just having kind of those difficult conversations. And I just think that is, you know, I talk to any of my friends that are like at similar or a little bit farther stages and startups, and it's like, that is just something that you really like kind of is hard and weird to learn. But I guess the thing for me is like realizing that like when I have worked for other people or something, it is like, yeah, like you want your boss to tell you what to do, or you want them to tell you if you did a good job or a bad job. Like you do need to provide
some feedback loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think doing that, and then also just the place we've been really lucky is just that like I really feel like with the team we have, like everybody just gives a shit and they just want to like go above and beyond and like make the thing work. And so they've been really good. Like I think as I've been learning that, our team has been great at like helping even get that, where they're like asking for feedback and just like doing, you know, they show things and it's just, yeah, I think it's kind of got a bit off track there. But yeah.
You're talking about like building a team or having a team of people that kind of give a shit. How are you kind of trying to find those people and foster that?
I mean, the fucking awesome thing about what we're doing is that it actually does matter, and it is actually like a good thing for the world. And like there are like, well, this part is not awesome, it's horrible, but like there are like good dudes getting killed every day, and like we can actually prevent that. And so I think like from the top, from the highest level, it's like we're not starting with I don't want to dog on any one vertical. So the classic like fake, you know, like Uber Eats for pets or something. Like it's not like we have some just bullshit thing that doesn't matter and we have to like invent some mission. It's like, no, like this is like people are dying right now, and if we don't figure this shit out, like our country is going to be fucked in the next war. Like we have no EW resilience. We have like our systems, like we are barely building drones in America. We haven't figured that out. And then when we do build those drones, we're building drones that were like hot shit 5 years ago. Like we need to, and that doesn't apply. Like there's companies that doesn't apply to, but like we just need to really be like ahead of the curve on this. And so I think like from that highest level, like I give a shit about what we're doing. And so from that, it's just like trying to talk about that. And I think just being like even more and more, yeah, like you don't really need to dress it up at all. Like it's just it just matters and it's important. And I think to me it's like very obviously like an inspiring mission. I think to a lot of people it is that too. And so I think the biggest thing is just not being afraid to talk about it and to be super vulnerable and talk about the actual real emotions of like, this fucking sucks. It's really scary. If you go to some of these places, it is scary. Like there will be like missiles hitting a couple blocks down from you. Like it is not fun. And that's okay, because there are people that are in way worse spots than us. And like, it's not our job to get in a trench. It's not our job to get in a foxhole, but like we should go as close as possible to that and then help those people as much as possible. And yeah, man, like I've never had to drive a car to like position and like there's a drone flying behind you at 140 kilometers an hour with an explosive on it, and you're just hoping that like it crashes or they get jammed or something, or you're just like gonna die. And so then it's like, okay, like you should go to the place where there's gonna be a rocket that hits like we're staying in a place, and it's like you literally like are 2 blocks away from like just roof of the building gone. And it's like, that's really, 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 really fucking scary. And also that's fine. And so I think that Yeah, and just to end this, like I think war is just the most awful thing ever. And I there's this meme that I always comment on it when I see it on Twitter when it's like, oh, like men used to go to war and now they do XYZ. It's like, well, actually, like, having a matcha is way fucking better than like going to war. Like you don't like that's not there's nothing admirable about that. But what is also true is that like people are at war right now. Like there are hundreds of thousands of people in Europe at war, and you can do something about it. And like it's yeah, it's just like you put yourself at more risk, you get into scarier situations. It's hard, it sucks, but like also there's literally hundreds of thousands of people that have it not just way worse than you, but like you can actually help them. It's not some like, oh, okay, this is some abstract thing that like you should worry about. You can't give a shit about everything, but like if you do care about these problems, like you can actually have an impact. And it starts with just a couple people. And then from then it's more and more and more people. And like the beauty of technology and software, and also just building cheap shit and trying to get your supply chain tight, is that you can scale it. And so if you actually figure this out for those 5 dudes, then next thing you know, like, oh, now we're figuring out for 50 dudes. That feels a lot better than it did for 5 dudes. And we actually haven't had to do that much more work. And soon it will be for 500, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, so I think just talking about it more and just trying to put a lot of effort into capturing people's attention and finding the things that people care to hear about, and doubling down on those things. Because to me, like anytime like somebody is thinking about or talking about the things that we're working on, like or adjacent things, like that's a good use of their time and thought. And that's a lot better than like, oh, I'm dating myself here, but what did Kim Kardashian eat for breakfast, right? Like it's yeah. And so I think just like we have like an obligation, and I think you do a great job of this in like platforming a lot of different people, but like you have an obligation to go out and like find things that matter and then talk about them. Because if you don't, I just spent so much of my life like without a clear idea of like what I could actually work on that mattered, and just like it wasn't in front of me of like, here's something I can have an impact on. And so then it's this very aimless thing. And so I think just like realizing that the more you give shape and like realize these things, I just think that's really, really good.
I was listening to the Christian podcast on the way over here, and I wrote down this question that was basically biggest moments where you ran up against reality because you're building like hardware versus just software. What have been those biggest moments where you're just like, shit?
Or you just really fuck something up in a really real way. Yeah, I mean, we have had a couple of those moments. I mean, I think we've had more of those moments than most people, probably, just because again, like that oh, this needs to work 80%, or sorry, it needs to work 100% of the time, not 80%, 90%. Like that wasn't something I came into this knowing, right? Like I don't have I just figure things out as I go along. And so that comes from like fucking it up 10% of the time, but that 10% was like really big and shitty. And so yeah, I don't know how like good of a light this like we've just really fucked up. Like the first time we went to Ukraine, we spent like a week doing this integration. Like I've gotten over it since, but like just really scared to be there and just worried by the air raids, and trying to we wrote our whole code base in Python to begin with, which is really stupid, and I had to rewrite the whole thing in C++ because like it's like I'm not going to ship my source code out to people, but so I'm doing that, like not sleeping, just like really stressed. And we spent all this time like integrating with these guys, and they had we got a catapult over there. The reason we have a catapult over there is because we went out and these guys had a catapult, and like everybody in Ukraine has a catapult. They all launch their drones off catapults because
Really? Okay.
you can like
kind of like the zipline thing where it just shoots it off.
yeah, it just like
Yeah.
And you know, the reason just being that like landing gear is bad for aerodynamics. Like basically the way to get the tightest aerodynamics on the plane is to design it such that it's already in the air. And you don't have to worry about getting it up like with VTOL or landing gear or something. And then if you design it so that it's already in the air, then you got to get it up in the air. So you get this big pneumatic catapult that just shoots the thing out, and then it takes off. But so yeah, we just weren't tracking that. And like when you're building like just with this, like the takeoff is like a pretty important, or used to be, should I say, a very important part of flight. And there's inertial measurement units in here. Basically, these are complicated systems, and so it's important that you test with basically understand all the variables. And so especially when we were starting, like takeoff was an important variable. And so yeah, we just get out there to this field. We see this catapult, and it's like, oh fuck, man! Like this is our first flight that we ever did there, and we're looking at the catapult. And this is something I've gotten a lot better at, is like saying no when shit is not what you expected, but only from saying yes to too many things, and then it doesn't go well. But so yeah, we put it on the catapult, and normally we have like here when we do testing, definitely, and with most people, like actually less and less, but we have like telemetry feeds. So you're getting information off the drone about what's going on. You can just kind of see the status of everything. You can send like, you can see if something's going wrong and say like, come back or do that. You know, you have a lot more control. And also we don't do this anymore. Well, we do it in the US, but like, you know, having like a backup GPS. And I can go into that in a second, like, cause it's a whole own thing. But like, yeah, we get out to this field. Haven't been sleeping for like a week, just like really scared. There's this catapult, and we just like yeet the drone off the catapult, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, we just don't support like a catapult. Like it doesn't like, and so the drone like kind of flies around. It like looks pretty good, but like we can't tell what's going on. And so it like looks pretty good, and it's like flying, doing a circle. And like it wasn't working. It's just like, you know, you look at the logs, you figure this stuff out, but it looks pretty good. And then all of a sudden it just like takes off like completely away from us, just takes off away from us. And it's like going. And like, we don't have any control over the thing. Only one guy does. And like going on. And then finally he like flicks the thing. We're just kind of sitting there, and we're like, well, shit, like guess the drone's gone. First flight in Ukraine, and then like 2 minutes later, and thank you, Ardu pilot. It just like came back, you know, it went on to like, on these short distances, like you can totally use, like our system is really useful for like hours long, 100-kilometer long flights. Like if you're a couple hundred meters away, like you can just get back with a compass and like an accelerometer. And so yeah, it came back and landed, but that was like, that was like a big, like, oh shit, like that sucked. And now we got to go look at this and figure all these things out. The way we've gotten away from having those moments is just, yeah, just testing all the things ahead of time. And then if something doesn't, if something is unfamiliar, like, not to say we can test everything, but like, we'll figure it out really quickly. Like we've got really good engineers. We can test stuff. Like we've definitely learned a lot. Like we were out in Dnipro, and like our system is waterproof. But we had done some like crazy, we're very willing to do like crazy modifications. So for whatever reason, like we've popped it out of its like waterproof case, just to mess with some different stuff. And then, we've like put it on top of the drone. So we've got this like exposed board on the top, sensors underneath. There was a good reason for this. But then it starts raining a little bit. And
like drizzling.
Yeah, just drizzling. And you've just got this like exposed, and I'm like kind of an idiot, man. And like all the guys are like, just fucking send it. I'm like, yeah, dude, like let's just go. Let's go. And Sasha just looks at me and he's like, man, like, no, like this is just not a good idea. And that's where it's like, oh yes, like let me back out for a second and see, like, and then we just waited for 10 minutes, and then we just did the test with, again, like you can fly this in the rain, but you can't fly this like hacked. And so I think that was like a really, but that just comes from like again, like to the thing I said about like everything is like your gut. Um, just training the gut to, oh, okay, I've been in this spot before. I've wanted to impress these guys who are fucking badass. Like, these are the coolest people in the world. I really want to show them this thing, but let me take like a step back and actually impress them by not
or making sure that it actually works, or giving it the best likelihood of working after you've gone through kind of like the checklist of things to
Yep.
lower the likelihood of failure.
Yep. And just having a checklist. Yeah.
Did you like previously not have a checklist at all, and you were kind of like, again, going on instinct, but before you train the instinct, you don't really, you're going on gut, but you don't have the feedback loop, or like you don't have the prior information.
This is the funny thing, is like every process has to be like invented. So we have like a really good checklist. We've got like pre-packed, like we've got literally Pelicans that are packed with all the shit that you need to like go. So like you don't have to come in on Sunday for your flight and like pack a bag and then you forget something. But like all of that just comes from like you're doing, like when we started, we're doing like 90 things at once and we're trying to figure all these different stuff out. And so a lot of that process like just came, and that's been another thing that like growing the team has really helped with, because you just have to have process. And also a lot of the people that we've hired are just like really good at that and just very thorough. And so, yeah, to begin with, just a lot of vibes and just forgetting stuff and then being like, oh, this is really stupid.
I know that for surgeons, they have a very like clear process before going into a procedure. And before that, there was people just like not washing their hands and stuff. It's just, you know, they go from like a surgery to like delivering a baby.
My dad's a pilot, and like growing up, I would, you know, always ride in his plane. He's very thorough. Like any pilot knows this. Like you have the checklist. You go through the checklist. You check everything. Like that's what gets you killed is not checking your checklist. And that's just one of the big things that we have had to internalize and do, is just, yeah, you're doing serious shit with serious people and you need to behave seriously. And it's really great and awesome to be like young and figure things out quickly and be kind of a goober, but also like you got to get your shit
from
tight.
The past and make sure that you're not just like unnecessarily taking bad actions just because you just don't know.
Just these people, like when you deal with really competent people, and I would say that like anybody in especially US SOCOM, but like globally, like a special forces soft operator is like, these guys are fucking elite and they're not used to people fucking around. And so they will give you a lot of like trust and credit, but like you can't abuse that. And like you just gotta show up knowing your shit. Cause if you say that this thing does XYZ, like they just trust you. They don't have time to verify that.
You're basically, every interaction you're investing a lot of reputational capital. And if, you know, if it works, great. And, you know, it comes back. If it doesn't, you've lost a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's really just one, like there's only one such interaction that haunts me, but it's like, yeah, you get the opportunity to work with the best people in the world, and you're just not on, like literally the best people in the world. And if you're just not on your shit and doing what needs to be done, then, you know, you put everybody in a bad situation, and then they're just like, hey man, like this ain't it. And so I think that's been just a big, like, I love thinking and highlighting, and like honestly, a lot of this has been talking about things that like weren't wins. And there are a lot of wins, but I think you learn a lot more from the losses, and like that's definitely
like much more painful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Much more painful, and just like, yeah, you just I think you just grow up a lot when you have those moments, and it's like, oh shit, man, like I'm sorry.
How has, like, did you grow up being willing to take risk and willing to kind of push through and put yourselves in situations like that? And how has that kind of changed from the first trip to like deciding to do that in the first place and then deciding to go back?
Yeah, I think growing up, I just, I wouldn't even say it like, I think in the past couple of years and kind of the zeitgeist of San Francisco has shown that like, yeah, there's these returns to risk and you should seek out more risky things, yada, yada, yada. There's this good model. I don't think that was like exactly the model that I had growing up. I think it was just more like being really interested in certain things and then really pursuing those things. And so some of those things were like super like normal and mainstream, like, you know, okay, like really, really into basketball. Like I really care about this. Like, you know, there's not, there's really nothing like outlier about being super into basketball. But then sometimes I just get really into things that I think were like weird or like out of distribution at the time.
Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah. So I think the first like really crazy thing I did, and for a long time, this was a thing that I was like most proud of, was when I was like entering my senior year of high school. So like when I was 17, I went on the Appalachian Trail so I started off with one friend and then I ended up by myself for like a month. And I hiked like 400 miles of the Appalachian Trail by myself at 17. And I literally just like read a Reddit post where somebody had mentioned that. And I was like, that sounds really cool. Like I want to do that. And that was like all the thought, like there was no more thought. It was just like, that sounds really cool. I'm going to go and do that.
You slowly got a call to adventure and you're like, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like, I just had really supportive, parents and like supportive in the sense of like giving me the things that I needed to do that. And then also supportive in that, like, I think they realized at a pretty young age that like I was kind of just going to do the things that I wanted to do. And so they should just like facilitate that. And so, yeah, that was like definitely pretty wild. And I think shaped a lot of my adolescence afterwards, because it's like, yeah, like you're literally sleeping, like you're either sleeping out in the woods by yourself or you're like sleeping like under benches and you're like hitchhiking and doing all this crazy stuff. And what I also really liked about it is that it's like a very clear goal. So it's like, you know, anybody that's hiked some or all of the AT is like, you just follow like the white flags, like it's a trail. It's literally, you just put one foot in front of the other. And so I think that was very nice, just like goal, and every day you do that and do a little more of that. And yeah, just, so I think it's less about maybe about risk and just more that like, there's really interesting things, and some of the most interesting things require risk.
How many trips to Ukraine have you done?
I've only been there 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first trip was like a little over a week. The second trip was like a month, and then this last trip was a month.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what we're doing now is like Sasha and I are like, one of us will be there and then we'll tag the other person out, and then we'll kind of flip flop there. Cause to me, it's like, we need to have what became clear is like everything needs to work really well and be really tight before you go over there, because there's just no appetite for stuff that doesn't work. And it's like, you don't want to waste anybody's time, and you just want to show up with shit that works. But once you have that, like, you need to have somebody there, like in country, like we're going to be there until the war's over, and then after that. So that's going to be like a long time.
How was that first trip? How was the second trip? And kind of what's the like feeling that you have when you're going over there?
Yeah. There's a lot less action the first time we were there, to be honest. I just don't think I was like in the right headspace. So like I said, I was basically coding like the whole time and just like not sleeping very much, which is not good for, I think,
critical thinking and thought, like being in, you know, like
fight or flight
comfortable.
Shit. Yeah. And I think also just like, I just really feel like it's still intense, but it's a good feeling to go and you have something that you think is like really going to be helpful to somebody. And the first time we went over there, it was just like, yeah, we're meeting people, but I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of companies that go over with shit that doesn't work, and they just want to use this whole thing as like this marketing thing. And it doesn't, to me, it didn't feel good to be there, like talking to these people and having like something that I wasn't confident in, because yeah, we're able to work with them, and I think it was a great learning experience, but it's just not, I just don't think it's fair. And I think that there's like this really awesome like Silicon Valley mindset that just doesn't apply in this case of like, oh, you should like sell the thing and then do it. Like
It's exactly flipped.
it's just not, this isn't the kind of shit that you want to sell before you have it, because like timelines are important, and like there is a lot of risk. And like, yeah, if you sell somebody like this, enterprise SaaS thing and it doesn't come through, like their enterprise is still running, like, but it's just a very different thing. And so I think the second time, like, yeah, we got into significantly more sketchy situations, but we were with really good people that are also just like I said, like I do my best, but like I'm not some, like I'm not a soldier, right? And I've never been a soldier. And so when you are with those people and they have like an understanding of risk and a very different model, and it's just like,
They've been in these situations and they've actually stayed around.
yeah, and they just talk to you earnestly, and it's like, dude, I mean, the risk, like we talk, it's crazy to us as like people from like the best country in the world where things, nothing happens to you when you're sitting in your house. But like, I don't know, when you go out and you're with guys that like do actually go into a basement and fly drones for a week at a time, and that is like super sketchy, and they're just like, yeah, like there's missiles that hit the city, you're gonna be fine. Like nobody's, it's just like, if it's your day, it's your day. And that's just like it's just
Is that really the mentality over there?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, it just has to be, right? Like it's because you just got it. I don't know. I think I've learned so much that like it just comes very naturally to people that have actually been in these situations, but I've just had to hear it. But it's like, yeah, you get out there and you just can't, I don't think it really does well to be worried about those things. Because again, there's like nothing, and for me too, and like even this is such a it's like we purposefully don't get ourselves into the sketchiest possible situations. And like it's just not, that's not like how I see our job. And so it's just like there's people that are taking 100+ times more risk than you, 1,000, 10,000 times more risk. And so I mean, once you start actually interacting with those people, it's just it's like, yeah, I can do this, it'll be fine.
Do the people that kind of come over there with a half-baked product have the same sort of mentality that you have, being willing to do that if it's the right thing to be doing?
I think the independent variable there is like looking for the single success versus looking for like continued success and looking to eliminate failure. Because from what I've just learned about, like, yeah, there's you can go over there and you can get the picture, you get the picture with the guys, you do the one thing, you put it on your website, you talk about it endlessly. And it's like, one, it's like, oh, we've done this thing. Like there's a company that comes to mind. It's like, yeah, we have this, we did this strike, yada, here's this whole, we're going to talk about this endlessly. And then you just leave because you don't like, again, failure sucks. And like, if your whole thing is like, we want to do this once and talk about it, and you fail 100 times, you do it once and you leave, like that's shitty. Whereas like, to me, it's like, I want to be there until it literally just works. Like the only reason I'm not there right now is because like it actually works without me being there, and we still have people there. And it just needs to be like, and this is the case with any customer, but like it's the case in Ukraine, it's the case in the US. It's like, it just needs to not break. It needs to never break. And so,
So your mentality is you're going over there to basically solve a problem and make something work, whereas some other people are going over there for like a photo shoot.
I think that you see the other thing, like the thing I'd say is most of the people that we interact with at this point that are still there, like, dude, it's been 3.5 years. Like we were really late to this problem. Like we were not this specific problem, but like we're late to the war. Like it took us a long time to get our shit right and even get over there. And so I just think most of the people that have stuck around and are still out there, like, do give a shit. And I think like I think almost everybody in the world is like really good. And I think most everybody you run into out there like really does give a shit. And I think most of the war tourists have kind of gotten disenfranchised. And like, I can also say, like, having done, it's like, I know what it's like to go over there. You do the one thing that you can talk about, and then a bunch of stuff doesn't work. The thing is, you have to like, I think to me, the difference is like, do you figure it out? And then you come back and you say like, here you go. Like, and you say, I'm sorry. And you continue to like make the thing work, like, and do that. And so, and there's not like, that to me, there's no like, it's not a financial thing. It's just like, it needs to, I think a lot of the financial incentives push you away from doing that, but it's just like, you need to go and do that. At least that's kind of the differentiator to me, is just like, I have gone there, I have failed and then left, and then I've come back and made things work. And that is, I think that second part is like all you can control, because you always will fail, but like, it's kind of what you do after that matters.
I think people can kind of sense when you genuinely care and that you're genuinely there to like make something work or make something happen. Yeah, I also think they can genuinely, they know when that's not the case,
dude. And like, I will say, like, it to me, it's like honestly an honor, but like, you look somebody in the eyes and it's like this commander, and you're just like, let me tell you, like, I have been working on this every single day for 15 months. This is the only thing I care about. I have built this whole thing for you. These are all the things that it does. It is like, yeah, this question that you have, like, I figured it out because somebody, like, this is specifically designed to help you. And I think that, like, that is, that's just a really,
it's also honestly kind of like a rare thing that you can kind of bring to someone and show them.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I think in the drone space, there's people that, started before the war in Ukraine and after the war in Ukraine, and there's like differences, and there's definitely like a lot of really good technical expertise. And I would say even the folks that were doing it before the war have more technical expertise. But I think there's just kind of this like drive of like, if this wasn't the thing and I could do some other thing, I would do the other thing. It's just, this is what it is. And so, I do think that
matters,
to folks. And I think also just like, none of this shit is easy. And like, when you still show up and you explain like all of the, I don't know, it's not like it's just like, yeah, this was hard. That's fine. Like, we've done it. Like, let's go.
You've clearly got a very, I think like a pretty solid intuition on just making things happen. Even if it's like kind of a duct tape solution, going from that to something where you are trying to hit 9/9s of reliability is kind of like, it's not the exact opposite, but it is kind of the exact opposite. And what is the flow in your mind and the way that you iterate from that first iteration to getting this thing?
Dude, it's such a good question. So, a couple of things. I think oftentimes the hardest thing about anything is plugging everything in and turning it on. And so, like, I think about everything as like kind of like either black boxes that are connected with like, data pipes, or just like functions basically. And so the most important thing is like mapping out how the black boxes all connect to each other, and then you have to fill them in. And you need to do better and better and better. But so I think that was like the really nice thing with like going and just doing the flight is like, okay, this clearly doesn't work. We're not expecting it to work, but we do know how we pass data in. We do know how all these systems like connect, and we have an understanding. So like, we're like, I think probably, yeah, I mean, literally every single part of that has been like swapped out and modified, but you can find bit by bit by bit, like, what is the thing that's most broken here and how do I swap that out? And so then I think always finding the thing that's most broken and swapping that out, eventually you reach a point where actually things aren't nearly that broken. So like if you break it down into like 3 stages of like, okay, you have that thing that's like clearly ridiculous. Then you fast forward like 6 months and you have this thing that like kind of mostly works like 80-90% of the time. Maybe you have to like SSH into it and like type a little bit on the laptop, but like it will generally go up in the air. But then sometimes something goes like catastrophically wrong. Like clearly that is like significantly less broken than the thing that like doesn't even fly at all. And you just get there by like unfucking all these different parts of it. And then I think from there, then like you just kind of repeat this process. I've repeated this process iteratively. And then you reach a point where like, it becomes clear. It also comes down to like requirements too. Like initially, like we weren't our own customer, but we were the person that we were trying to deliver on. So we needed like a prototype, and we needed these requirements were like much less stringent. And we just really needed to show that like we could get a drone up and send data into it, and like that there was some, we're collecting something and we are able to localize off of it, yada, yada, yada. Then the requirements become more stringent, because if you go to somebody and you show them something and you say, hey, I think this is pretty good, or I think this isn't great, but I think this is like directionally correct. And then they say, that's great, like do X, Y, Z. Now you have this thing to build against, and then you can start to see what's really broken and like keeping you from that. And then you reach a point and like, we just totally reach this of like, oh yeah, like we want to sell 100 of these a month, like this month, like of course we want to sell millions of these, but like this month, like we're selling 100 of these. That has a different kind of like requirement, because A, that means like you need customers that are buying more than like the onesie twosies. So you need repeat customers. So you need people that
you make something so good that they want to come back.
They get 2 of them and they're like, this is fucking awesome. Give me 20. And then from 20, this is fucking awesome. Or the product is so well made, and it, like, I think to get from 20 to 200 to 2000, then you start having like, it's not just questions of like quality, but it's like, how are you building your product roadmap, and like, how well do you understand your customer and their needs, and like, what are you providing to them? Because like, obviously just replacing the GPS is like cool, but like, there's a lot more on a drone than that. There's a lot more you can do with software than that. And so just building more and more of those things out. But I think it just comes from, like, I think your initial question was really good. It's just like, I just want to make something that works well for the people that need it. And it eventually became really clear that like, they're happy with the hacky stuff, but it just needs to work well. And so you just go bit by bit by bit.
Yeah. Show that you can move fast, but then also like on the back end, make sure that they are so happy that they're coming back again.
Yeah. And everybody, I mean, we've sponsored like different hackathons and like university projects and stuff, and basically like asked and encourage people to like build the exact thing that we've built. And like, I think that that's great. And you can just totally see when somebody has like inklings of something awesome, or like is doing, like, there's just such a big gap between production ready shit and like an idea, but people still appreciate if you take, like, nobody's expecting you to actually build the whole thing that's like, TRL9 in a week. But if you show them something in a week, they're like, oh, okay, you're taking this seriously. Like, let me invest into you. And I think that's also another big part, is like, I think we've just, luckily continuously demonstrated to people that are like really, really good and competent, like, we give a shit, we're taking this seriously. Like, if you see something that's can be improved with what we're doing, like, please tell me and I will improve it, and work really hard. And then like, yeah, we give a shit and are doing everything we can to make this good. And so I think that just leads to like investors, but more so like customers and like people that are just willing to take a bet on that, because Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. People understand that it just takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, like, people starting with V0 and going to all the way to like V10.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, yeah, when you start at a hackathon, it's just like, well, clearly you're not building like, you're not building a Tesla in 24 hours.
You might be building the like clay version of something that the silhouette of a core.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the general shape.
Exactly. Exactly. If you made like a whole clay Tesla in 24 hours, people would be really fucking impressed.
Final question. What are you most excited about?
Yeah. What am I most excited about? I think that it is really, really fun and awesome to go from doing like a handful of things. Like I think it's funny when people self-describe as like, oh, we went from 0 to 1. Like I don't think you ever go from 0 to, you do one thing and then like, okay, maybe if you
make
like,
one little tweak, you make another.
Or also like, okay, Meta, they've probably gone 0 to 1 as a company and then they paid off all their investors. They're still doing new things. Like I think you're constantly resetting that. But like I think going from let's just make this thing work at all to let's make this thing work really reliably to let's make this thing work reliably at scale, and then let's make this thing work reliably at scale on board tons and tons of platforms. And so there's so many different drones out there. Like the word drone is such a catch-all, and it can describe something that's like, literally like a tiny whoop, like a 65 millimeters all the way up to like massive, like 1,000-pound, like group 5, like combatant, like
something that costs like $5 up to something that costs like 20 or 50 million.
Yeah. And I just want to go on as many of those as possible. And I think in order to do that, you need to reconfigure parts of what you're working on, and you do need to do engineering. But like that's what's really exciting is like, okay, we've got this nice box, but really this is like, it's kind of like a developer kit. Like you can put this onto some amount of drones and you can use it and you can see how great it is. But like I'm excited to work with the people that are delivering on scale on drones to deliver them capabilities on those drones at scale. And so that to me is very exciting, because I think like, yeah, software scales, like there's a beauty to scaling software, but like it does scale pretty naturally. Like random projects, like work thing that I did, it's like, yeah, we made this thing, spin up a database in literally in like 30 minutes, send it out, and oh my god, like it's got 1.5 million hours of watch time, and there's all these rows. It's just like it just scales naturally. Like it's super easy, and like literally like I hadn't touched the thing, and it's like, holy shit, all these people are using this. And then you go from that to this, and it's like, yeah, it's very it's very much like hand-to-hand combat to scale like this, and you need to update the product, you need to do engineering, you need to manage supply chains, you need to manage like a lot of aspects of what you're doing. And that's fun, because it's like this fun new challenge, and it's kind of like a superset of the thing that we solved already. And so yeah, that gets me like super jazzed, is just, yeah, I want to go from hundreds to millions, and I just think that is like, that
trekking up the mountain is the exciting thing.
Yeah. And it's very binary. Like it's yeah, okay, you have the box that works at smaller scales. Like now get the box that works at scale millions. Like that is that's a binary, and it's like a bit that we haven't flipped yet. And so I'm very excited about that.